This Ag Vision program is made possible through the generous support of Syngenta Seeds NK brand. The results you need, the freedom to choose. And by Farms.com. Ag news, market prices, ag careers, and farm real estate. You'll find it all at Farms.com.
North American consumers enjoy food products from far and wide. It's a system based on cheap fuel and cheap food. As the price of transportation increases, however, the 2,500-mile salad, as it's often called, begins to lose its economic flavor. What opportunities does this represent, therefore, for farmers? Fred Kirschenmann is a distinguished fellow at the Leopold Center on the campus of Iowa State University and joins us today from Ames. Thanks for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
Now, you've advocated several solutions for those in agriculture to prosper. Time permitting, we want to get to many of them. However, I would like to focus on one in particular. You are a strong proponent of the concept that a local food system is essential to sustainable agriculture. In fact, a key solution to the farm crisis. Can you explain that?
Yes, well, first of all, we always need to make clear that when we talk about local, it doesn't necessarily mean, 50 miles from where you live. But it is food that is identified with a place that the food customer can identify with, and it has to do with food that is fresher, which means more whole foods, less processed foods. I mean, those are the things that food customers are telling us now that they want, and that gives the comparative advantage to more local production, more regional production, and to the farmers that are in those regions that are in the best position to produce those foods.
Well, take me back to what you said before about how local doesn't necessarily mean within 50 miles or so. So what does the average consumer consider local then?
Well, what they're really looking for is, well, at least the Hartman Group and others who've done some pretty thorough work on surveying this. When people say they want food that's locally produced, what they're really saying is they want it produced from a place that they can recognize, a place that they can identify with. And so we've actually gone to referring to that as place-based foods. So it's a particular place that people can identify with, and they want to support the farmers in that place.
Another term that you use sometimes is food miles. Explain to us what that means.
Yeah, we did some research a few years ago on food miles, and one of the things we wanted to find out was how much diesel fuel is consumed in bringing food from the field to the table. And so we looked at different types of trucks, local trucks versus semi-trailers, and we looked at food that was part of our global food system, which now travels on average 1,500 miles or more from field to table. And then we looked at more local foods, that is, direct marketing, where farmers would take their vegetables or fruit and put it in the back of their own pickup truck and bring it to a farmer's market. And then in between that, we looked at more regional food systems, which are more coordinated, where farmers tend to link together and deliver the food product from several farms in one truck. And the thing we found out was quite interesting. As we expected, the global food system, which travels 1,500 miles, uses the most diesel fuel, and therefore also puts the most CO2 into the environment, which was one of the other things we're interested in looking at. Mm-hmm. What was kind of a surprise, but when you think about it, shouldn't have been, was that the direct market local food deliveries actually consume more diesel fuel. And the reason, of course, is that when each farmer puts that product in the back of their own pickup truck and hauls it to market, it takes more diesel fuel than when you have a group of farmers coordinating their product and delivering it to a regional market.
So with that in mind, some people would be puzzled then that the trend you're suggesting is towards more local. So explain where it does make more sense then.
Yeah, the future that we see, and this is not to in any way speak badly of the local direct markets. Farmers markets throughout the developed world are growing quite rapidly. And one of the reasons that it is because people like to go to a farmer's market and actually shake the hand of the farmer that grew the food. And we call these the local heroes. These are the farmers that are really local heroes to the people that buy the food from them. And that will continue to grow, and we want to support that. But that scenario, that paradigm for producing food is not going to meet the kind of market that's currently growing out there. And what we're seeing, particularly in food service, but also to some extent in retail, is increasingly we have food customers that want food that's highly differentiated. And the differentiation is generally in terms of three categories. They want to have food that is of high quality, and to them that means food that tastes great, that's healthy, and that's nutritious. Those are the three primary things. And then secondly, they also want the food differentiated in terms of a good food story. So they want to know where the food came from. They would prefer that it was produced by a genuine family farmer. And they would like to know that there was good environmental stewardship and that the animals were treated appropriately. There are a number of those kinds of food stories that can be added to that high-quality food, which adds to its value. And farmers being adequately compensated is important to them as part of that food story.
So cost isn't necessarily the driving factor for the consumer then, is it? What does research tell us in terms of what consumers are looking for when they want to buy local then?
Right. Well, what they're looking for is products that have those kinds of differentiation. The other thing, the third piece of it, is that consumers like to be participants in the food system. The way the Hartman Group put it recently was that increasingly consumers do not respond to companies that market at them. They respond to companies that market with them. And so they like to be participants in some way, and with our internet technology, et cetera, we believe that there are very creative ways that we can engage the consumer in that. Now, I do want to say, too, that this is not to ignore price. Price is still an important thing to all consumers, but it's not at the top of the list. Price generally is a consideration that comes fourth or fifth on the list of things that are important to them.